A businessman gifted a shelter dog to his ailing daughter and went on a business trip, leaving her with her stepmother. But when he returned earlier than expected, Ethan parked his car near his house. He was about to get out when James, the co-owner of their small company, called him. "Ethan, buddy, you have a business trip tomorrow. We need to handle some matters. We're being offered favorable terms, but one of the co-owners needs to be there in person. I'd go myself. I know you need to be with your daughter right now, but I can't. I have to attend other negotiations. You know, everything always comes at once. But we need to take our company to the next level." "Yeah, James. I'm afraid to leave Martha." "How is she? What are the doctors saying?" "They're not saying anything. They blame it on psychological trauma after her mother's disappearance. This, in turn, has severely weakened her immune system. And most importantly, she has no will to live." "Any news about Anna? Has she called? What could have made her leave her husband and daughter without even saying goodbye? Why pass a message through her sister? She could have talked to you herself." "Yeah, it's a crazy story. It's so unlike Annie. Maybe Hannah is hiding something? Or and asked her to keep quiet. I can't make sense of it. My head is spinning from all these events." "I understand, Ethan, but it's a short trip. 3 days at most." "All right, James, I got it. Did Laura already book the ticket?" "Yes, the flight is at 12. You'll need to swing by the office in the morning to grab some papers, and then you're off." "All right, James, see you tomorrow." "See you tomorrow, buddy." He hung up. Ethan entered the house. It was quiet. Hannah didn't come out to greet him, so she must not have been home. Ethan decided to check on Martha. His 15-year-old daughter spent most of her time in her room. She often felt weak and lay in bed. Martha was fading day by day. Ethan's heart ached, but he didn't know what to do. It felt like someone was draining her energy in some magical way. "Hi, sweetie," Ethan said as he approached Martha's bed. "Hi, Daddy," the girl replied weakly, lifting her head slightly from the pillow. "How are you? What did you do today?" "Mostly slept. I felt so weak. I wanted to read, but my eyes kept closing, even though the book is really interesting. It's about a dog." "A dog? That's great," Ethan sighed. "Dad, do you remember we were going to get a dog with Mom before she left us?" Martha found it hard to speak, a little red Pomeranian. "She promised to bring it that day. I rushed home from school, but only Hannah was there, for some reason. She said Mom had to leave urgently." "Yes, sweetie, I remember you talked about the puppy. We looked at pictures of dogs. Martha, how about we get a dog from a shelter? It would be a good deed. And you'd be happy. I just need to go on a business trip for 3 days. You won't be so lonely with the dog." "Yes. I want one. But a small dog, Daddy, so it can live in my room. I always want to be with it." "All right, I'll find you a friend, darling." Ethan tried to sound as cheerful as possible. "Thank you, Dad." Martha turned onto her side. "Dad, are you really going to marry Hannah? Did she tell you that?" Ethan asked cautiously. "No, I just guessed. You two seem to get along well and—" "Yes, Martha, we get along fine. She's your mom's sister, after all, but I'm not going to marry her. I'm a one-woman man, sweetheart. It's as hard for me as it is for you to understand why your mom left us without explaining anything." They were silent for a while. Ethan glanced at his daughter. She had closed her eyes and was starting to fall asleep. He quietly left her room. When Ethan went downstairs, Hannah had just come home with bright shopping bags. She had obviously been shopping. "Hi," she smiled at him. "Hi." "Hannah, why do you leave Martha alone? Anything could happen." "Dear, Martha is grown up. What could happen to her?" "Yes, she's grown up, but she's sick. She might need your help," Ethan said firmly. Yes, you're right, it won't happen again. I'll always be with my niece. Hannah hugged Ethan and pressed herself against his chest. Don't be mad at me, okay? Okay, Hannah, I'll be working in my office. I'm leaving for a business trip for 3 days tomorrow. Please pack my things. All right. You weren't planning on going anywhere. No, I wasn't, but duty calls, and there's no one else to go. Ethan headed to his office, located in an extension of their house. The first thing Ethan did was call his secretary, Laura. She often helped him with personal requests besides work. This time she offered to help find a dog for his daughter. Then he got to work preparing some documents for the upcoming trip. In the evening, around 8, Laura brought a pet for Martha. Thank you, dear, Ethan said with feeling. You found a Pomeranian. Did it end up in the shelter? I was surprised myself. He had been there for over a year. They said a woman brought him, assuring it was temporary, but never came back. It was like he was waiting for Martha. I remember you said she desperately wanted a red Pomeranian, right? Yes, she and her mother were going to buy one, but it didn't work out. Her name is Foxy. Laura smiled and handed the dog to Ethan. Foxy, Ethan repeated. Martha will love her. They said goodbye until tomorrow, and Laura left. Ethan went upstairs, eager to surprise his daughter. On the way, he encountered Hannah. Where did you get the dog? She asked disdainfully. Foxy growled and even barked a couple of times. Ew, where did you get that thing? Hannah wrinkled her nose. It's for Martha. She dreamed of a red Pomeranian. So please be nice. Better order bowls and all the necessary things for the dog. Ethan quickly climbed the stairs. Martha, sweetheart, are you awake? Ethan asked softly, peeking into his daughter's room. No, Martha was sitting on the bed. Her face was pale, with dark circles under her eyes as usual. She didn't even look at her father. I brought you Foxy. Ethan placed the dog on Martha's bed. Oh, how adorable! A faint blush appeared on the girl's cheeks. It's my dream. A red Pomeranian. She's so cute. Thank you, Dad. Foxy came closer to Martha and nuzzled her hand. I see you two hit it off right away, Ethan smiled. But she growled at Hannah. That's because she's mean, Martha frowned. How can she even be Mom's sister, even if she's a cousin? She rushed to us right away, as if she had been waiting for this all her life. As if she cares about my condition. She doesn't care about me. She only wants your money. How do you even tolerate Hannah? Sweetie, what's wrong? Did you argue with her? Why are you mad at Hannah? I can spot bitches from a mile away, that's all. Martha hugged Foxy. My sweetie. Let's bite Hannah, okay? The dog licked Martha's nose and wagged her fluffy tail happily. It was genuine, deep friendship between a human and an animal. The door to Martha's room opened slightly. Martha, darling, don't forget to turn on the salt lamp at night, Hannah purred. You know how important it is for your health with your weakened immune system. I remember, Hannah, Martha grumbled. Foxy tensed and growled softly. Ethan, dear, why do you let the dog sit on your daughter's bed? Hannah, Foxy will be wherever I want her to be, the girl said firmly and kissed the dog on the head. How unhygienic. Hannah grimaced and closed the door. Very hygienic. Martha stuck out her tongue. Ethan thought his daughter looked much better than usual. He hoped Foxy would help her cope with the illness, the nature of which remained unknown even to the doctors. The next morning, Ethan did not stop by to see Martha before leaving. It was early, and he didn't want to wake his daughter. Sleep is crucial for recovery, one of the many doctors Ethan had consulted said, trying to get some sensible answer about what was wrong with her and why she was fading away before his eyes. Martha's life, tormented by her mysterious illness, had changed significantly. Now she had a true friend to talk to, play with, and cuddle. The girl desperately needed something like this. As she petted Foxy, Martha felt a thin collar around her neck. For some reason, she hadn't noticed it the day before. A tiny wooden pendant with a paw print hung from the collar. No way! Martha had made such a pendant from special polymer clay that turns into wood upon hardening. She and her mom had made about 10 of these. This was the best one. Martha vividly remembered inserting a pretty, sparkling rhinestone into one of the paw pads. This pendant had that very rhinestone. How could this be? Why did a shelter dog have a pendant made by her? Could this orange miracle be connected to her mom? Of course. She hadn't abandoned them. She had wanted to give Foxy to her, but something had happened. Someone had taken the pup to the shelter, and her mom. What had happened to her mom? Could she have been kidnapped or worse? No, Martha decided not to think about it. She pushed away the terrible thoughts that her beloved mom could be dead. The girl never believed that her mom had simply left them to the mercy of her aunt. Foxy's bark pulled Martha out of these heavy thoughts. The dog was barking at her salt lamp. What did she not like about the lamp? Quiet, Foxy. What's wrong? Martha tried to calm the dog. You didn't pay attention to it yesterday. Why are you suddenly barking at it? It's just a chunk of salt with a light bulb. Martha touched the lamp, but her hand trembled, and she accidentally knocked it off the nightstand. The salt chunk split in half, and the bulb inside shattered. What happened? Hannah ran in at the noise. Did your mud do this? Her aunt stared at the shards. Don't call her that, got it? For some reason, since the dog appeared, the girl started feeling a little better and even more confident. How dare you talk to me like that? I'm not a stranger, Martha, Hannah's eyes flashed. Leave me alone. It's your fault Mom left. Clean up these shards, Foxy might get hurt, and so could I. What does this have to do with me, Martha? Annie left on her own. She just got tired of living with your father, and with you too. She told me so herself. Do you want me to prove it to you? Do you want us to go to her tomorrow? I know where she is. What? You're lying. Or are you hiding my mom somewhere? Martha's eyes filled with tears, and beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. Tomorrow morning. I'll show you where your dear mom is. You can talk to her yourself. Is that true? Martha softened a bit. You'll take me to Mom? You're not lying to me? I will, if you want. Don't say silly things. Of course, I want to see Mom. Even if she tells me she doesn't love me and Dad. So be it. At least I'll know the truth. Now please clean up the shards. A few minutes later, Hannah returned wearing gloves and a mask. Why do you need a mask? Martha was puzzled. Just in case, Hannah muttered and started cleaning up. That night, Martha couldn't fall asleep for a long time. She couldn't stop thinking about her mom. What really happened? Why didn't Hannah tell her and her dad that she knew where she was? Who is she living with now? Why did she leave without saying where she was going? How does Hannah know the place where her mother is now? Everything seemed strange. Hannah never inspired trust in Martha. She felt that Hannah dreamed of becoming her father's wife instead of her mother. She remembered something from her childhood. Her mom had told her that she and her sister both fell in love with her father, but he chose her mom, leaving her aunt out, although she was 7 years younger. Hannah never married or had children. She was always around her cousin's family, as if waiting for something. And now she had the chance to get even closer when Anna left so suddenly, without even saying goodbye to her loved ones. Martha was scared. What if Mom really doesn't love Dad and her? What if she doesn't want to see her? Maybe she has another man and a child. She was still young and very beautiful. But it was important for Martha to know the truth, not to live in ignorance. With these heavy thoughts, she slowly began to drift into a sticky, engulfing sleep, like a forest swamp. Can you walk on your own? Hannah asked when everything was ready for the trip. Are you taking your dog with you? Yes, Foxy is coming with us. I can walk. I feel a little better than usual. All right, be careful, Martha. Come on, Foxy, she called the dog, and Foxy joyfully jumped around her owner. They had been driving for about an hour. Is it far? Martha asked. The girl started doubting, thinking maybe Hannah had decided to get rid of them with Foxy. What if she wanted to lead them into the forest and leave them to the jackals? Martha shivered. Lately, she felt terrible, her consciousness was muddled, her whole body ached, and weakness almost never left her. We're almost there, Hannah said, turning right. The road turned bumpy, forested. Everything around was lush with greenery, and the birds sang so beautifully that Martha couldn't help but listen. The air coming through the open window was fresh and fragrant. Martha even felt dizzy. After a few minutes, the car stopped near a shabby house, half hidden by low bushes. What made Mom stay here? Martha thought. Did she really want solitude, even some sort of hermitage? That wasn't like her. I'll help you get out, Martha. Hannah easily jumped out of the car. I'll do it myself, she grumbled and opened the door. Foxy jumped out of the car and started sniffing the grass and bushes with interest. Suddenly, the door of the small house opened, and she appeared on the threshold. Yes, it was her mother, her real mother, whom Martha hadn't seen for a little over a year and a half. She had lost weight and even looked younger than before. Mom! Mommy! Martha rushed to her mother, but her weakened legs gave way, and she fell right onto the path. My girl! Anna hurried to her daughter. What's wrong with you? Are you all right? Yes, Mom. I'll leave you two for a bit. I'll go to the village store for some food, and you can have some soda in the meantime. Hannah handed Annie a bottle with a pale green drink. Oh, my favorite mojito! Anna exclaimed. Sweetie, let me help you up. Are you feeling all right? I'm fine, Mom. Martha tried to get to her feet. Hannah's car disappeared from sight. They entered the house. Foxy ran in happily after them. Did Dad already pick you up from the boarding school? Mom asked in surprise. What boarding school? Martha didn't understand. Hannah said you were in Switzerland. Weren't you there? No, of course not, Mom. I was at home with Dad and that awful Hannah. And you, why did you suddenly disappear? Why didn't you say anything? I don't understand. Anna rubbed the bridge of her nose with her right thumb. Aren't we in danger anymore? Mom, what are you talking about? What danger? Martha stared at her mother. Wait. I don't understand. Never mind, nonsense. When Hannah arrives, we'll ask her everything. Tell me about yourself instead. Oh, I just noticed the dog. Did Hannah bring her to you? Hannah? No, Mom, Dad got this dog from the shelter just 2 days ago. What? This is the same dog. I immediately put a collar with the paw print we made together, remember? Of course, I remember, Mom. Even the rhinestone didn't fall off. It's still there. We glued it on well, Martha laughed softly. But how did she end up in the shelter? I asked Hannah. Could it be? How could this happen? Never mind, let's have some mojito in the meantime. And suggested cheerfully. She was so happy to see her only daughter that everything else faded away. It was so hot that summer day, and the drink was so refreshing that mother and daughter drank 2 glasses each. For some reason, Hannah still hadn't returned. Martha started to feel sleepy. Mom, let's lie down together, she suggested. Let's, her mother agreed. They lay down on the old double bed. Within a minute, both were asleep. It must have been the fresh air or the overwhelming emotions. Ethan was in a good mood. The deal was closed, and he could go home with good news. He finished even earlier than planned. Ethan headed home right away. He was worried about his daughter and wanted to make sure she was all right as soon as possible. The road was almost empty. Ethan arrived home around noon. "Hannah, Marta. Why is no one greeting me?" Ethan ran up the stairs. His daughter's room was empty, her pajamas were lying on the bed. Ethan's heart sank. Could it be that his daughter had fallen ill and was taken to the hospital? No, not that. But how to explain the absence of both Hannah and Marta? Foxy was also nowhere to be found. Hannah wasn't answering, nor was Marta. But there was clearly no phone at home, no sound, no vibration. Ethan decided to check if he could track his daughter's location. He opened the app. Yes. He saw a red dot. It was Marta. But where was she? What was she doing in the middle of nowhere? Ethan didn't think long and rushed to his car. He drove as fast as he could, breaking all the rules. He just wanted his girl to be all right. What could have happened? Could it be that someone took Marta and Hannah so far from home? But why? Could it be a kidnapping and someone wanted a ransom? But then why did his daughter still have her phone, with location services on? Or maybe it wasn't with her anymore? Either way, Ethan decided to get to the place. The red dot was stationary. That was good. It meant he could get there soon and find out everything. It was also strange that Foxy seemed to have been taken too. Kidnappers don't usually behave like this. Or did he not know this type of people well enough? Ethan turned right and drove onto a forest road. One bump followed another, the car was shaking, and it was impossible to drive fast. He glanced at his smartphone screen. The red dot started flashing. He was there. But where to look for his daughter and Hannah? Ethan listened. He heard a dog barking nearby. That was Foxy. But where was she? Ethan followed the sound and finally saw Hannah. She was standing by a small, dilapidated house. Hannah was holding a hammer and nailing a board to the door. What was she trying to do? Then Ethan noticed a faint smoke coming from the house. Foxy was barking her head off and scratching the door from inside. What's going on here? Ethan shouted and rushed to Hannah. He started tearing off the nailed board. Fortunately, Hannah hadn't managed to secure it properly. He then burst into the house and saw his wife and daughter lying on an old sagging bed. The corners of the little house, which consisted of just one room and a small kitchen-like area, were beginning to catch fire. Could it be that Hannah? Had she decided to set this house on fire with his wife and daughter inside? Ethan couldn't believe it. There was no time to think. He had to save his girls. One by one, Ethan carried his wife and daughter outside and began to extinguish the fire, which was already raging seriously. Luckily, he had a fire extinguisher and a can of water in the car. The fire would have taken only a few minutes to destroy this shack along with its occupants. Ethan was about to put Marta and Annie in the car to take them to the clinic when his wife came to her senses. The fresh air and the water Ethan had sprinkled on her face did their job. Ethan? Annie opened her eyes and looked up at her husband. Are we in danger? I hope not anymore, Annie. Ethan hugged her tightly. Why did you leave us? Why? I didn't leave. You said we needed to hide, that Marta would go to a boarding school so she wouldn't be found. Some business partner who threatened you and vowed to kill Marta and me. What? Annie, where did you get this nonsense? Who told you all this? I hope you haven't started taking any illicit substances. What? Hannah called and said that I couldn't go home, that you asked her to hide me better. Ethan, I don't understand anything. Did Hannah lie to me? I don't know what she told you. But we are not, and were never, in any danger. But the fact that she tried to burn you and Marta inside this wreck a few minutes ago, I am 100% sure of that. Only now did Ethan realize that Hannah was nowhere to be found, nor was her car, which she had parked near the cabin. While Ethan was saving his family, she had driven off in an unknown direction. But now, that didn't matter. Home, he asked his wife. Are we sure none of us are in danger? We're not being followed? I just can't get Hannah's words out of my head. Ugh, my head hurts, Martha said, propping herself up on her elbow. What happened? Martha, her parents exclaimed in unison. It looks like she slipped us some sleeping pills in the mojito, the girl croaked. Who? And didn't understand. Hannah. Who else? And with the lamp, I'm sure there's more to it. What lamp, sweetheart? And asked cautiously. The salt lamp that Hannah made me turn on every night. It wasn't just for nothing. When it broke, that woman in the mask was picking up the pieces. Maybe that's why I've been sick all this time. Maybe there was some poison in it. Oh my God. Did she really do that? Ethan muttered. Although after today, I'm not surprised by anything. Come on, girls, let's go home. Ethan helped his beloved girls, as he always called them, into the car. Foxy didn't need any help. She immediately climbed onto Martha's lap. They spoke little on the drive home, each trying to process what had happened to them today. No one fully understood everything, but they decided to postpone the conversations for later. I'll call a service to check your room, Martha. For now, don't go in there. Experts will investigate everything. Maybe you're right, and Hannah really did try to poison you. I just don't understand why. Are you serious? His daughter exclaimed, eyes wide. I was in her way of being with you. As I gathered from bits of your conversation, she took Mom to some remote place to keep her scared of some non-existent danger, and I needed to be neutralized too. Haven't you read any books? Martha, where did you read such horrors? And looked at her daughter in surprise. I just love detective stories. You can read all sorts of things there. I've always said Hannah is a rare bitch. But she turned out to be even worse. I missed so much. And looked back and forth between her husband and daughter in bewilderment. What was happening here? Martha fell into a depression after you disappeared, and then she became bedridden. The doctors were at a loss, attributing it to teenage trauma and a weakened immune system. And I, foolishly, didn't notice anything. There was so much work. Everything piled up. Ethan pinched the bridge of his nose with 2 fingers. In your daughter's room, we found traces of mercury compounds, plus some other heavy metals. We'll need to investigate further in the lab. Mercury compounds? And covered her mouth with her hand. Ethan was speechless and simply stared into space. We also found a fragment of some toxic salt. We can't say for sure yet, but there was a reaction, so the salt is definitely contaminated. In such a small room, it's easy to die from that. Oh my God, how horrible! And exclaimed. I'll kill her with my own hands. Sister. If you suspect someone, you should report it to the police, said the masked specialist at the door. Thank you, guys, Ethan said. Is the room safe now? Did you neutralize everything? Yes, in about 2 hours you can do a wet cleaning, and then it's safe to live there long and happy. The next day, they went for a checkup. The parents were advised to have Martha thoroughly examined and spend a few days in a clinic to recover her health. They needed to make sure there was no damage to her internal organs or brain. Mom, I don't want to go to the clinic, Martha said tearfully. Sweetie, it won't be for long. You'll get better faster. Foxy and I will be waiting for you. And when you come back, we'll make lots of beautiful decorations for her, and kissed her daughter's crown. I've missed you so much, my butterfly. I missed you too. I never believed you abandoned us. It's all that vile Hannah. I hate her. She should be locked up for 200 years. The Johnsons returned from the clinic closer to evening. How about we order food from a restaurant? Ethan suggested. We still haven't had a proper conversation about all these events. Will you tell me everything in detail? Yes, I've been bursting to do so, but I didn't want to upset our Martha even more. She's already determined to put Hannah in jail. Apparently, she really deserves it. During dinner, and recounted everything that happened over a year and a half ago. And had dropped Martha off at school and immediately went to pick up the puppy from the woman she had arranged with the day before. She was already on her way back when Hannah called and asked to meet. "Annie, you need to hide somewhere urgently." Hannah rattled off. "Ethan said he has some problems at work. Competitors are threatening him. He told me to hide you urgently, and he'll take care of your daughter himself, planning to send her to a boarding school. You can't go home. We're going to our late uncle the Forrester's house. We'll hide your car there too. There's no time to lose." "And you?" and asked fearfully. "What about me? I'm not in any danger. Let's go." That's how Anne became a forest dweller. Hannah came once a week, bringing food, water, and all the essentials, and had to live in terribly uncomfortable conditions. She told me Martha was doing well, that you were fine too, but the danger hadn't passed yet, and clasped her head in her hands. What a fool I was. She even forbade me to call you. How did I fall for this like a 3-year-old? That bitch even put the puppy in a shelter." Ethan remained silent, just holding his wife's hand. Where could she be now? She wouldn't be at her little apartment on the outskirts of the city. I have no idea. But she must answer for everything. I always knew my sister wasn't a very nice person, but to commit such a terrible crime, it's beyond comprehension. Can you imagine what I felt when I saw her near the cabin, boarding it up? My whole life flashed before my eyes. I knew for sure that Martha was there. I tracked the location, but I had no idea about you. She even set the cabin on fire from inside. Hannah wanted to kill you both, for sure. They were both too exhausted to be angry anymore, but the next day, they went to the police. Hannah was found quickly. She tried to leave the country, but she had some issues with her documents, so there was a delay. Otherwise, she would have been long gone. Is this how you wanted to spend your best years? And asked quietly when they were allowed to talk briefly. No, I wanted you and Martha dead and out of my way. That's what I wanted. I love Ethan. I've always loved him. All these years, I watched your happiness in silence and cried into my pillow at night. I should have been in your place. Me? Ethan met me first. Then you batted your eyelashes, and he switched to you. What are you talking about, Hannah? And sighed. Ethan and I were drawn to each other right away. You weren't dating. You made up a story. You could have found your person long ago and been happy with him. I don't need another person. I need Ethan. Everything was starting to go well with us while you were gone. He was with me. He shared a bed with me. You're lying. You're lying again. And exclaimed and stood up from her chair. This conversation is over. Gradually, the Johnson family's life returned to its previous routine. The once nearly lifeless Martha became a cheerful, active girl with a spark in her eye. The effects of the poisoning were still there, fatigue, headaches, and occasional body aches, but overall, she felt fine. She could already attend school. She had a lot to catch up on, though she had been studying at home during her illness when she had the strength. Once again, the house was filled with the sound of girlish laughter as Martha and her friends giggled in her room. Anna was also gradually recovering from everything that had happened. The court sessions were behind her. Her sister faced a substantial prison term. Anna had started making custom jewelry again, as she used to before the events that nearly cost her and her daughter their lives. Anna did not visit her sister. She couldn't even bear to see her after all the harm she had caused her family. Anna decided to erase Hannah from her life and forget about her forever. But one day, she was reminded of her cousin. Mrs. Johnson? This is the women's prison where your sister Hannah Frog is being held. Yes. Has something happened? Yes, your sister has given birth to a child. She claims you might want to take the baby into your family rather than putting the baby in an orphanage. Are you willing to do that? What? Why would I want her child, which she had by who knows whom? Anna was breathless with indignation. Miss Frog claims it is your husband's child and that he wouldn't abandon it. What? Anna almost dropped the phone. Whatever decision you make, please call this number, okay? Yes, okay, Anna replied and hung up. Anna couldn't just sit still. She needed to weigh and think everything over carefully. The best place for her to do that was a small grove near their house. She often wandered there seeking inspiration and simply to rest from the hustle and bustle, feeding squirrels and birds. Let's go, Foxy, Anna called her dog, and they set off for a walk together. Anna walked along the path. She suddenly recalled her sister's words, "He was with me, sharing my bed." Could it be true? Ethan was having fun with Hannah while his wife sat in a forest cabin, trying to keep warm in the winter. Yes, he didn't know where she was. He thought Anna had left and didn't want to see him anymore. But how could he believe that so easily? Maybe he wanted to believe it to be with Hannah? Anna's mind started to boil with all these thoughts and assumptions. She urgently needed to talk to Ethan and get to the bottom of it. Anna couldn't find the right moment to talk to her husband. The hurt was choking her, making her want to cry and smash everything around. When Martha went to bed, Anna finally started the difficult conversation. "Ethan, how quickly did you start sleeping with my sister?" she asked bluntly. "What? What are you talking about, honey?" Ethan almost choked on his tea. "I mean, Hannah has had a baby. And she claims it's your child, Ethan. I got a call from the prison today." "Annie, darling, you must be joking." "What child?" "Your sister is in prison." "And? You can't have a baby there?" "Martha is right. You don't read detective stories, or maybe you don't read at all. You just work. Besides, Hannah, you didn't even notice she was ruining our daughter. She bewitched you, didn't she?" Anna was losing control. "So what if your wife is in the forest?" "No big deal." "Anna, stop," Ethan said firmly. "You're not yourself. I didn't know you were in the forest." "You didn't answer the phone," and Hannah said. "Did you try to check? Did you try calling me to sort things out? Did you believe your sister?" Anna was silent. Her husband was right. She had also believed Hannah. Tears streamed down her face. "Annie, I'll be honest with you. It only happened once. I was drunk, and she came into my office in a silk robe. Please spare me the details." Anna took a sip of tea from her cup. "That's not what I meant." Ethan buried his face in his hands. "Yes, I cheated on you, but it only happened once. I don't know what Hannah told you, but that's the truth, believe me. I barely remember anything." "Almost," Anna repeated. "Hannah wants you to take your child. Why do you believe her?" Ethan jumped to his feet. "She's obsessed with you. She had no one else, you understand? She devoted her life to waiting for a chance to be with you. I realized that when we talked in prison, before the trial. So what do you suggest? If I were you, I'd start with a test. But I'm telling you right away, I won't raise your child. We'd better get a divorce, Ethan. Nothing can be the same between us. I don't want to stay in this house anymore. Martha and I will move to the apartment my grandmother left me. It's been empty for so long. It's time to settle in. Annie, don't be rash. Please. Let's talk about this calmly. You're right, we need to do a test. But please, don't leave. I love you and our Martha. Don't do this. Martha is just starting to recover, and we're gradually returning to normal life. It would be a blow to her. But I won't lie to her either." Anna turned away from her husband. "I'll sleep in the guest room tonight. Annie, what if it really is my child? Deal with it yourself, Ethan. You're not a child. You should understand that sometimes children come from rash actions. You could at least have used protection." I'm telling you, I was drunk. I didn't realize anything. Ethan ran out of the living room and went to his office. The Johnsons' bedroom was empty that night. And not just that night. The atmosphere in the house was extremely tense. Anna hardly spoke to her husband. He started staying late at work, and at home, he spent most of his time in his office. Martha tried to find out what was going on with her parents, but both remained silent, brushing her off or trying to change the subject. The girl decided she would find out what was going on at any cost. "Mom, can I come in?" One evening, Martha peeked into her mother's room, where she had settled in. "Come in, Butterfly," her mother responded, getting up from the stool where she had been sitting at the dressing table. They sat on the bed and snuggled up to each other. "Mom, something has happened between you and Dad, but I can't figure out what exactly. I have a feeling it's somehow connected to Hannah." "More detective stories?" Anna smiled. "Mom, I'm grown up now. You can tell me everything. You'll feel better. You'll see." "My girl, how you've grown. You're so smart. But this is between your father and me. I don't want to involve you in it." "Mom, we're a family. You're both avoiding each other, not talking, and I'm supposed to just watch calmly? Have you fallen out of love? Did Dad cheat on you? Does he have a mistress?" "Not exactly, honey. It's just that Hannah had a baby." "Right in prison? How do you know?" Martha stared at her mother with wide eyes. "Yes. They called me. Hannah claims it's your father's child." "She's lying." "Who do you believe?" "Hardly. She fell in love with him like a cat many years ago and couldn't accept that he married me, that we have a family. I talked to her before the trial." "But could Dad really?" "No, I can't believe it. He says it happened only once, but it doesn't matter anymore, Martha. Nothing can be the same. Mom, can you never forgive Dad? He loves you, it's obvious. I can see that." "Martha, my dear girl, where do you learn these things?" "Life teaches, Mom. Don't think about it. Forgive Dad and live happily." "And Hannah's baby?" "She abandoned him right after he was born. He's destined for an orphanage," Anna sighed heavily. "But we can't take him into our family." "Why can't we?" "I hope the poor child hasn't inherited his mother's bad genes," the girl laughed softly. "Is it a boy or a girl?" "Oh, I was so shocked when I got the call that I didn't even ask, and replied, bewildered. But what difference does it make?" "Indeed, it makes no difference. The baby isn't to blame for anything. He deserves to live in a normal family. We're his only relatives, essentially. It's up to us to take care of him. Call that woman tomorrow morning, Mom, the one who left you her number, and tell her that we agree and all that." Anna remained silent, unable to understand where her 15-year-old daughter had so much wisdom and warmth in her heart. "You think we should take the baby, become his foster parents?" "Well, yeah, and I'll, become his foster sister." Martha laughed and hugged her mother, who was worn out with doubts. 3 years had passed since that heartfelt conversation between mother and daughter. "Amanda, don't run too far," Martha shouted to her sister. "The evil gnome will get you. He takes all the naughty children." Martha caught up with the girl and started tickling her. "Let go, Martha, let go," she laughed. "I want to see this gnome." "No, Amy. We don't need any gnome." Martha took her sister's hand. "And do you know why?" Amy shook her head. "Because he will take us to his forest house and make us clean his stinky boots." "Yuck. I don't want to clean stinky boots." Amanda wrinkled her nose. "And since you don't want to, let's run home quickly. Look, Foxy is already calling us. Mom has probably baked a pie, and Dad promised to have a barbecue today." And they rushed towards home, led by the little fluffy red ball named Foxy.